I was lying on the creaky old bed in the small house in Delaware, where everything seemed perpetually shrouded in darkness. I am Riley Denton, 31 years old, working as a security guard at an auto parts manufacturing plant. The job was nothing special, just guarding the cold iron gates all night, listening to the rumbling machines like the whispers of lost souls. Tonight, my sleep was once again dragged into those familiar hazy dreams. Dreams about my mother, the woman I loved more than myself. In the dream, I saw her, with her familiar warm smile and gentle blue eyes. She was standing on the hilltop where we used to picnic. The wind whipped her hair around and she waved, calling to me, "Riley, my son, come here to Mom." I ran toward her, but the closer I got, the fainter her figure became. Then suddenly she vanished, falling into the endless void of the abyss. I screamed, reaching out desperately, but only grasped the icy air. My heart pounded wildly, sweat poured out, and I thrashed in my fitful sleep. It was the recurring dream every night ever since the day she disappeared, or more precisely, the day everyone believed she had died. 10 years ago, my mother, Maggie Denton, vanished during a picnic trip with my father. They said she slipped and fell into the ravine, her body never found. My father, Louis Denton, returned with a deathly pale face, recounting the horrific accident. The police searched for weeks but ultimately concluded she was dead. We held a funeral without a coffin, just white flowers and tears. I was only 21 then, in college, and my world collapsed. My younger brother, Chris, was even smaller, just 17, crying until his voice gave out. After Mom's death, Dad changed completely. From a cheerful man to a cold one, immersing himself in his construction work. And me? I dropped out of school, wandered for a few years, then settled in Delaware with Amber, my wife. But the dreams about Mom never stopped. They reminded me that deep down I had never truly accepted that she was gone. Then in the dead of that night, the phone rang shrilly. The sharp ring cut through the dream, jolting me awake. I reached for the nightstand, the screen glowing in the darkness. Unknown number. My heart beat faster, a strange premonition rising. I answered, voice groggy. "Hello?" The voice on the other end was a man's, deep and urgent. "Hello, is this Riley Denton? This is the Buffalo Police Department. We have an emergency case. We're holding a woman who matches the missing person report for your mother, Maggie Denton. We need you to come identify her immediately." I bolted upright, the blanket falling to the floor. My mind spun like someone had punched me in the face. What? My mother? Impossible. She's been dead for 10 years. Are you joking with me? My voice trembled, unable to believe my ears. The officer patiently explained. We found her wandering the streets, no identification. When we checked fingerprints and identifying features, the system matched the missing person file from 10 years ago. She doesn't remember much, but we need family to confirm. Can you come right away? This is the main police station in Buffalo. I couldn't think straight anymore. My heart raced chaotically, blood rushing to my head. Was this a cruel prank? Or a miracle? I jumped up, threw on my old jacket, hands shaking as I grabbed the car keys. Our small house in Delaware was about 4 hours' drive from Buffalo. In the middle of the night, the highway would be empty, but I didn't care. I had to go. Had to see with my own eyes. I rushed to the garage, the engine roaring to life, echoing in the quiet night. The headlights sliced through the darkness, illuminating the wet asphalt road after the rain. As the car rolled out of the neighborhood, memories of Mom flooded back like a torrent. I drove fast, hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. The highway was pitch black, only occasional container truck lights flashing by. My mind swirled with unanswered questions. Could my mother really be alive? And where had she been for 10 years? Why hadn't she contacted us? Or had she lost her memory? The more I thought, the more anxious I became, cold sweat breaking out despite the heater being on. About an hour later, the phone rang again. It was Amber, my wife. I pressed the speaker button. Honey, where are you going? I woke up and you weren't here. Her voice was worried and I felt guilty. Amber, I got a call from the police. They say my mom is at the Buffalo police station. They need me to confirm. There was silence on the other end for a few seconds, then she exclaimed, Oh my God, Riley. Your mom? But she's... Are you sure? Could it be a mistake? I don't know, honey. But I have to go. I'm already on the way. Wait for my news, okay? I'll call when I get there. Yeah, but drive carefully. Night roads are dangerous. I love you. I hung up, my heart heavy. Amber always worried about me. She knew how the dreams about Mom tormented me. Now, if this was real, our lives would change forever. The 4-hour journey felt endless. I stopped at a gas station midway, buying a black coffee to stay alert. The sky began to lighten as I reached Buffalo, the first rays of sun peeking through the gray clouds. The police station was an old building, neon lights flickering. I parked, legs trembling as I walked in. A middle-aged officer greeted me. Mr. Denton, we've been expecting you. We checked the missing persons database and the features match. Height, eye color, small scar on the right hand. She was brought in after wandering the streets, remembering nothing. I nodded, mouth dry. He led me to the waiting room. My heart pounded like a war drum. The door opened and before me was a gaunt woman huddled on the chair. Her clothes were worn and patched haphazardly, gray hair disheveled and frizzy, cloudy eyes staring at the floor. She looked like a ghost from the past. Then she looked up. That gaze, kind, heartbreakingly familiar. It was Mom's eyes, the ones that had comforted me through countless childhood nightmares. I nearly collapsed, legs going weak. Mom. Mom? My voice broke. I trembled as I approached, fists clenched to hold back the emotion. My lips stammered, speechless. She looked at me but showed no sign of recognition. Just a vague smile, like one for a stranger. I reached out and lightly touched her shoulder. The sensation was cold yet numbingly real. Her skin was rough but warm under the thin fabric. This wasn't a dream. She was alive, sitting here, right in front of me. Tears welled up, streaming down my cheeks. Mom, it's Riley, your son. She shook her head slightly, voice faint. Sorry. Who are you? Do we know each other? Or have you mistaken me for someone? Her words cut into my heart like a knife. She didn't remember, but she was alive. And in that moment, my world turned completely upside down. I stood motionless in the police station's waiting room, still clutching my mother's gaunt hand. The officer led us to the processing counter, his voice monotone as if reading a routine report. Mr. Denton, we need you to sign a few confirmation papers. She has no identification, but the fingerprints match 100%. We'll record that she's been found, and you can take her home. I nodded mechanically, the pen trembling on the paper. Joy? Yes, part of me wanted to shout with happiness. My mother, whom I had mourned for 10 years, was sitting here, breathing in sync with me. But the rest was agonizing to the point of collapse. She had returned in this unfamiliar form, emaciated like a stick, tattered clothes, cloudy eyes devoid of their former warm light. She didn't remember me, didn't remember anything. Was this my mother or just a ghost from the past carrying secrets I wasn't ready to contemplate? The procedures dragged on for nearly an hour, with all sorts of questions. Finally, we left the station. I helped her to the car, her hand ice cold in mine. Mom, let me help you into the car, I said, my voice choking. She nodded, walking slowly as if each step was burdensome. The car rolled onto the highway back to Delaware, and I couldn't stop glancing at her through the rearview mirror. She dozed off, head leaning against the window, breathing steadily. I thought about the years she had wandered alone. What did she eat? Where did she sleep? Was she cold on winter nights? A sharp pain twisted in my chest, making me grip the steering wheel tighter. By the time we got home, it was noon. Our small house on the outskirts of Delaware with its white fence and the little garden Amber tended. Amber was waiting at the door, eyes red from worry. She ran out, hugging me tightly before looking at Mom. Her emotions mirrored mine, a mix of joy and confusion. Amber was a nurse. She was used to patients. And with just a glance, she recognized that my mother remembered nothing. Amber gently guided Mom into the living room, her voice soft. Mom, I'm Amber, Riley's wife. Sit here and rest. I'll make you some hot tea. Mom sat on the old sofa, looking around the room with unfamiliar eyes. Amber quickly wrapped a thin blanket around her, then hurried to the kitchen. I sat beside Mom, unsure what to say. "Mom, are you tired?" She shook her head, giving a vague smile. Amber brought out the tea, a steaming porcelain cup with the warm scent of ginger. "Drink this, Mom, to warm up." Mom held the cup, sipping small sips, and for the first time I saw her relax a little. But I couldn't sit still. I had to tell Dad. "Mr. Lewis Denton." I picked up the phone, hands shaking as I dialed. "Hello, Dad?" I tried to keep my voice steady. "Son, what's wrong?" His voice was even, as if busy. "Dad, I have news. Mom's alive. I just picked her up from the Buffalo police station. She's at my house now." There was silence on the line, making my heart pound. Then his voice choked, but not with emotion. It was unnaturally hard. "What? Your mother? Are you sure?" "Don't joke." "I'm sure, Dad. Fingerprints match. It's definitely her. But she doesn't remember anything. She doesn't recognize me." He was silent for a few more seconds. "Yeah, I see." Then he hung up abruptly without a goodbye. The dial tone buzzed, leaving me stunned. No joy, no questions, just that cold response. I looked at Amber. She shook her head worriedly. "Your dad reacted strangely, honey." I nodded but said nothing. A vague suspicion began to creep in. Why wasn't Dad happy? He had loved Mom deeply, had cried quietly at the funeral. Or had 10 years changed him that much? A few hours later, the doorbell rang. Amber answered, and I heard her voice. "Dad, Chris, come in." I stood up, heart racing. My brother, Chris Denton, was here too. I opened the bedroom door, where Mom was resting, and saw the expressions on Dad's and my brother's faces. Something was very off. It wasn't joy or happiness, it was something like fear and tension. Dad froze at the doorway, staring inside. Chris forced a stiff smile, but his eyes darted away as if looking at a ghost. "Come in, Dad, Chris," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. They entered, and the room's atmosphere suddenly grew heavy. Mom sat on the bed, looking at them with cloudy eyes. Dad approached but stopped midway, his eyes full of conflict. Not joy, I could see clearly, but suppressed horror. His face was rigid, as if hiding a nightmare. "Maggie, are you okay?" he asked, his voice meaningless, like speaking to a stranger. Chris stayed silent, sitting with his knees drawn up on the chair, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool room. He didn't look at Mom, just stared at the floor. I watched them, and a sense of wrongness surged. This should have been a reunion moment, tears of joy. But no. The air was heavy like a funeral, as if Mom's return was a nightmare for them, not a miracle. "Why?" I wondered, my heart beating faster. Dad sat down, at a distance from Mom. How have you been eating? Tired? Where have you been all these years?" he asked, voice slightly trembling. Mom looked at him, and I saw her shrink back slightly, as if afraid. She didn't answer, just shook her head. Chris remained dead silent, hands clenched together until they were white. I tried to break the tension. "Dad, Chris, Mom has temporary amnesia, but luckily she's survived. We have to help her remember." Dad nodded mechanically, his eyes evasive. Then he slowly suggested, "Riley, how about I take her back to my house? I live alone, it's more convenient to care for her. You have a family, it might not be suitable." I looked at Dad, then at Mom. She shrank back when she heard that, her shoulders trembling slightly. A bad premonition rose in me. "No, Dad," I blurted out. "I have better conditions. Amber's a nurse. She can take good care of Mom. My house is spacious and quiet." Dad tried to stay calm, but I saw his hands clench the armrest until they were white. "Yeah, that's fine." He stood up abruptly. "I have to get back to the company. Chris, let's go." They left quickly, without a hug, without warm goodbyes. Chris glanced at me, eyes full of worry, then followed Dad out. When the door closed, Amber stood beside me, whispering, "Riley, I saw Maggie trembling when she heard your dad's voice. She was afraid of him. I didn't respond, but the suspicion in me grew. Why did Dad and Chris react like that? What were they hiding? I looked at Mom. She sat quietly, eyes on the window. The room was silent, but inside me a storm was brewing. Mom's return wasn't just a miracle, it was stirring up shadows I wasn't ready to face. I sat down beside Mom, holding her hand. "Mom, are you okay?" She nodded, but those eyes, they held something deep, like a buried secret. Amber went to the kitchen to prepare dinner, the steady sound of chopping echoing. I thought about Dad. He had been the family pillar, teaching me about morals, responsibility. After the accident, he used Mom's insurance money to revive the company. A large sum, enough to save him from bankruptcy. I had never suspected, but now everything seemed shady. In the days that followed, our lives tried to return to normal, but I could clearly feel something shifting. The small house in Delaware, once the peaceful haven for me and my wife, now seemed shrouded in an invisible fog. By day, everything was fine. I went to work at the factory, guarding the cold iron gates, my mind distracted by thoughts of Mom. Amber cared for her at home, brewing tea, cooking light meals easy for her to swallow. Mom gradually adjusted to the new routine. She sat reading Amber's old books or gazing dreamily at the garden. But at night, everything was different. I began to feel a strange sensation, as if someone was lurking around the house. Small noises, leaves rustling outside the window, wind whistling through cracks, now jolted me awake. I lay sleepless, listening, heart pounding in the dark. Just the wind, I told myself, but deep down I knew it wasn't. One evening, after a simple chicken soup dinner Amber made, I decided to take Mom for a walk around the neighborhood to get some fresh air. Dusk fell, the yellowish streetlights illuminating the quiet suburban streets. Mom walked beside me, lightly holding my arm, her steps slow. She didn't speak much, only occasionally smiling at the wildflowers along the road. "So beautiful," she whispered, voice faint. I smiled back. "Yes, Mom. This area is very peaceful." We strolled along the familiar street, the cool breeze carrying the scent of autumn's withered leaves. But then, as we turned a corner, I glimpsed a car parked not far away. A glossy black sedan, lights off, hugging the curb. My heart skipped a beat. Something was wrong. This neighborhood rarely had unfamiliar cars, especially at this hour. I stopped, pretending to tie my shoe, and glanced over. But the windows were pitch black, as if hiding something. "Mom, let's keep going," I said, trying to sound normal, but my grip tightened on her arm. We took a few more steps, then I looked back. The car had vanished into the night without a sound. Only an empty space remained under the streetlight. My heart raced wildly. Was someone following us? Or just my imagination? I hurried Mom home, my mind spinning with thoughts. Doubts about Dad and Chris resurfaced. Were they involved? Why did Mom's return make me feel more restless and fearful than ever? The next morning, while making coffee in the kitchen, the phone rang. Unknown number. I answered warily. "Hello?" On the other end, only heavy, hurried breathing, as if someone was struggling to hold it in. No words, just that breathing lasting a few seconds before abruptly cutting off. I stood frozen, the phone trembling in my hand. I called back, but no one answered. I tried to forget it, but similar calls repeated several times that week, usually at midnight when the house was quietest. The ring sliced through sleep, and again that breathing. Urgent, menacing. I reported it to the local police, but they said, no specific threat, hard to trace. I felt helpless, fear creeping into every corner of the house. Then one afternoon, coming home early from my shift, I decided to check around the property for peace of mind. Circling to the back, inspecting the windows, my heart clenched when I saw the frame of Mom's window had pry marks. Fresh scratches on the wood, as if someone had tried to force it open with a tool. The glass was intact, but clearly someone had attempted a break-in. I quietly replaced the lock, bought extra security bolts from a nearby store. I rechecked the entire security system. Front door, back door, even installed motion sensor lights in the garden. Amber helped, voice worried. "Riley, who do you think did this?" I didn't answer. No explanation, only baseless suspicion. In the following days, Dad and my brother started calling constantly as if monitoring the situation. Dad often asked, "Riley, how's your mother? Has she remembered anything yet?" The question repeated like a haunting refrain. "No, Dad, she still doesn't remember." I answered curtly but full of doubt. Chris called in the evenings. "Bro, how's Mom? Has she said anything about the past?" His voice was artificially cheerful, but I could hear the anxiety. "No, Chris. Why do you keep asking?" He laughed awkwardly. "Just worried about Mom." But I knew there was more. Were they afraid she'd remember something? Was it connected to her accident? Or something darker? I had no answers. Occasionally, I gently asked Mom about old memories, hoping to spark something. We sat in the living room under warm light. "Mom, do you remember anything about the accident? Riley, Lewis, Chris? Do any names ring a bell?" She looked at me, then suddenly clutched her head in pain, face paling. "It hurts. My head hurts so much. I don't remember anything." Her voice trembled, then she fell silent for a long time, eyes distant. I stopped, hugging her. "It's okay. Rest, Mom." Amber told me about nighttime incidents, making everything more tense. "Riley, last night Mom was talking in her sleep. Her voice was shaking, calling Lewis's name. She whispered as we lay in bed. She mumbled something about 'don't push,' then cried." My heart pounded. Why was Mom calling Dad's name in her dreams? Once she bolted upright in the middle of the night, running into our room. "Someone outside the window. Watching?" She trembled, eyes panicked. I rushed out, flashlight sweeping the garden, but saw no one. Only tree shadows swaying in the wind. I hugged her. "Just a dream, Mom." But she shook violently, tears streaming. Amber soothed her back to sleep, but that night I stayed awake, listening to every sound. The atmosphere in the house grew heavier, like a dark cloud hanging overhead. I clearly felt someone wanted us unsettled. The calls, the strange car, the pried window, all like silent warnings. At night I woke more often, checking doors, peering out windows with vague fear. Then on a chilly autumn afternoon, I decided to take Mom for her routine checkup. The doctor had advised regular monitoring to track her health after years of wandering. I prepared from the morning, helped her into the warm sweater Amber had bought, made her a cup of ginger water for the road. "Mom, we're going to the hospital today, okay? It's nothing serious, just a checkup." She nodded, her cloudy eyes trusting. The drive from home to the hospital in downtown Delaware took about half an hour, passing quiet streets lined with falling golden leaves. On the way, I turned on the radio softly, acoustic music playing, hoping it would relax her. She gazed out the window, hands lightly clutching her skirt as if lost in distant thoughts. I glanced at her. "Mom, do you remember any of our old trips? Dad used to drive and we'd sing along with the radio." She shook her head. "No, but it sounds nice." I smiled, but my heart felt heavy. The shadows still haunted me. I kept checking the rearview mirror, afraid that black car would appear. At the hospital, everything went normally. The doctor checked her blood pressure, heart, drew blood for tests. He was a friendly, middle-aged man with a warm voice. "Mrs. Denton, your health is more stable now. Just rest and eat well." Mom sat quietly during the exam, her eyes occasionally flicking to me for comfort. I held her hand. "Almost done, Mom." When it was over, he prescribed vitamins and scheduled a follow-up. We left the hospital in the late afternoon, the sun slowly setting behind the buildings. The hospital sat on a small hill. The exit was a slope leading down to the main road. Not too steep, but enough for a car to slide if you weren't careful. I helped Mom into the car and fastened her seatbelt. "Sit tight, Mom." She nodded with a faint smile. The car rolled slowly down the slope. Everything seemed fine. Cool breeze through the cracked window, radio still playing until the car began to skid slightly. At first, I thought it was just the wet road from a light rain, but when I pressed the brake to slow down, there was no response. The pedal was stiff, jammed. My heart clenched, blood rushing to my head. "What the hell?" I muttered, pressing harder, but the car didn't slow. It sped up, engine roaring as we hurtled down the hill. I yanked the emergency handbrake, gripping it tightly, but it was useless, as if severed. The car shot forward, the busy main road below packed with traffic. My heart pounded wildly, cold sweat breaking out. "Mom, hold on," I growled, voice panicked. She looked at me, eyes wide with fear, hands gripping the seat. The world blurred. Only the whistling wind and screeching tires remained. Memories flashed. Mom's accident 10 years ago, the ravine, the loss. Was history repeating itself? Who did this? Dad? No, impossible. In that moment of panic, I managed to swerve right toward an empty lot by the roadside, a patch of wild grass along the slope, no cars or people. The steering wheel shook violently in my hands, the car spun sideways, tires screeching on the wet pavement. We slid, dirt flying, then stopped with a hard crash into a small bush. Metal crunched loudly, the windshield cracked in a long, jagged line. I was dazed, head ringing as if struck, ears buzzing. The smell of smoke and damp earth filled the air. I slumped over the wheel for a few seconds, trying to catch my breath. "Mom! Mom!" I turned, heart nearly stopping. She sat beside me, blood trickling from a small cut on her forehead, eyes closed. She wasn't moving. Panic surged. I rasped, "Mom!" No. My hands shook as I unbuckled her, lunging to shake her. "Mom, wake up. Help. Somebody." I grabbed my phone from my pocket, dialed 911, voice stuttering. "Accident. Brakes failed. My mom's hurt." The operator calmly gave instructions, but I barely heard, only seeing the blood spreading from her forehead, soaking into her clothes. The ambulance arrived quickly. The hospital was nearby. They'd heard the crash and rushed out. Paramedics pulled us from the car. I staggered to my feet, head still spinning, but I didn't care about myself. "My mom! She's unconscious!" I shouted, tears streaming. They lifted her onto a stretcher and wheeled her into the ER. I ran after them but was stopped in the hallway. "Wait here, sir. We'll take care of her." I sat in the hospital corridor, hands trembling around a paper cup of water from the vending machine. Time stretched endlessly. Then a doctor emerged, exhaling in relief. "Mr. Denton, your mother is okay. Just mild concussion, a few scratches. She's awake now but needs monitoring." I rushed into the recovery room, heart pounding. Mom lay on the bed, white bandage around her forehead, eyes half open. "Mom," I whispered, sitting beside her. She opened her eyes fully, looking at me for a long time. Those eyes no longer cloudy but clearer, filled with emotion. Then she burst into sobs, voice trembling. "Riley, my son, my Riley." She said my name, the first time since her return. Her voice was weak but clear, full of love. I froze, tears welling up. "Mom, you remember me?" I gripped her hand tightly, afraid to believe. Her hand squeezed back, warm. A moment later, when she had calmed, wiping tears with the hospital gown sleeve, she spoke slowly. "Riley." My head. It was like something opened. All the old memories flooded back, like a dam breaking. Her voice shook but was firm. I sat speechless as she continued. "I remember everything now. The accident. Your father. All of it." Her eyes were full of pain, and I knew this was only the beginning of a terrible truth about to be revealed. I sat beside the hospital bed, still tightly holding my mother's frail hand. "Mom, tell me. I'm listening," I whispered, my voice trembling. She nodded slowly, tears rolling down her wrinkled cheeks. Her voice was faint, halting, as if each word had to be dragged from a deep abyss. "My son. I remember that picnic trip. It was 10 years ago, right? I thought the trip would mend everything." She began, her voice fading like a passing breeze. I listened, my heart constricting. I remembered that trip clearly. Dad had announced it suddenly, saying he wanted to take Mom to the mountains to relax, to salvage their crumbling marriage. Back then, Dad's construction company was in dire straits, buried in debt, and they argued constantly. Mom would cry quietly in the kitchen while Dad snapped and slammed the table. I was in college. Chris was still young. We didn't know much. I thought it was a chance to grow closer, she continued, eyes distant. Louis, your father, he drove us up the mountain. The mood was cheerful at first. I sang along with the radio. He smiled, a rare smile in those days. I thought, maybe things would be okay. I squeezed her hand tighter, fighting back emotion. Memories of Dad flooded in. He had been a strong man, teaching me to ride a bike, teaching me morals. Son, a man must be responsible, must protect his family. He used to hug Mom from behind, whispering affection. But debt changed him. He grew distant, cold. Now, hearing Mom, a vague fear rose in me. What happened next, Mom? I asked, voice hoarse. She took a deep breath, gathering strength. On the way down the mountain after the picnic, Louis said he wanted to stop for photos. The view was beautiful, son. The ravine below, dense trees. I happily agreed, stepped out of the car, turned my back to the cliff to admire the scenery. I was smiling, thinking of you, kid. Then he came closer. Her voice shook, tears falling again. A chill ran down my spine. The hospital room suddenly felt stifling. He said softly, "Sorry, Maggie." His voice was strange, son, not an apology for arguing, but like a farewell. Then he pushed me hard off the edge. Those words cut into my heart like a knife. I froze, mouth agape, speechless. Dad pushed her? Not an accident? I shook my head instinctively, tears welling. Mom, impossible. Dad, he's not that kind of person. But deep down, suspicion had long taken root. His odd reaction when Mom returned, the strange calls, the recent car crash. She looked at me, eyes full of pain. I didn't want to believe it either, Riley, but I felt it clearly. His hands on my back, the forceful shove. I fell, tumbling over rocks and branches, pain so intense I passed out. I clutched my head, trying to picture the scene. That ravine where police searched for weeks without finding a body. My father returned alone, face ashen, saying Mom slipped while taking photos. We believed him. Why wouldn't we? He was my dad, the pillar. But now everything was upside down. How did you wake up? I asked, voice choked. When I came to, my whole body ached like I'd been beaten. Head bleeding, memories hazy. I only remembered pain and fear. My body was tangled in thick vines at the bottom of the ravine, luckily not falling deeper. I lay there, I don't know how long, weakly calling for help. Mom paused, breathing heavily. I wiped her tears, my heart crushed. I imagined her alone in the ravine, bloodied in agony, while we waited at home for news. Then a hiker found me. He was a local hunter, saw me lying motionless. He pulled me up, bandaged me roughly, then took me to a small village at the foot of the mountain. The village was remote, no phones, just a few dozen families living off hunting and farming. I nodded, swallowing hard. He saved you. Then what? She gave a weak smile, the first in her story. He was kind, son. Name was Sam or something. I don't remember clearly. He took me home. His wife cared for me for weeks. They fed me thin porridge, bandaged wounds. I was bedridden, in pain everywhere, but alive. They asked who I was, where I was from, but I couldn't remember. My mind was blank. I hugged her, tears falling on her shoulder. She continued, "Then one day I left so as not to burden them anymore. They were poor. They'd done enough. I wandered to the city, lived like a homeless person, sleeping under bridges, eating charity food or scraps people threw away. I drifted from place to place, sleeping on park benches, enduring rain and wind. Sometimes hungry enough to eat garbage, constantly sick. But I survived, son, by instinct." Her voice broke, she sobbed. I held her tighter, my body shaking. The image of Mom, the gentle woman who cooked for us, wandering, starving, tore my heart apart. I stood, pacing the room, mind reeling. Mom looked at me. "Riley, stay calm. We need evidence." I nodded, returning to her side, gripping her hand. "Mom, I promise I'll uncover the truth. We can't let Dad get away with it." She looked at me, eyes full of worry but resolute. "Son, it's dangerous. He might hurt you." I shook my head. "I'm not afraid. I'll get justice for you." After some thought, we agreed to investigate quietly for evidence. Mom would continue pretending to have amnesia so they wouldn't suspect. She'd stay silent, act forgetful when they visited. I would start gathering clues, check old records, ask Dad's friends, even hire a detective if needed. "Rest, Mom. I'll handle it," I whispered, kissing her forehead. In the days following the accident, I decided to keep Mom in the hospital a few more days, even though the doctor said she could go home. I took leave from the factory, telling my boss it was a family emergency, something I'd never done before. The hospital room became our small world. Mom and I were still reeling from the crash. I still felt my head buzzing whenever I closed my eyes, the image of the car hurtling down the slope haunting me like a recurring nightmare. But amid the fear, I felt a strange relief. Mom was more lucid. Her memory was returning in fragments. She added more pieces each day, like reassembling a shattered picture. Every morning I woke early, bought coffee from the lobby cafe, and sat by her bed. She often lay still for long stretches, eyes heavy on the ceiling as if battling inner demons. Sometimes the soft roll of a nurse's cart in the hallway, the familiar gentle sound, made her flinch, hands clutching the sheets, eyes wide with panic. Amber visited daily, bringing homemade chicken soup and old books to read aloud to Mom. She was my anchor then. We sat in the corridor, whispering plans. "Honey, I think we should hire a detective soon. Your dad and Chris, they're calling too much." Her voice was worried. I nodded, but my mind was chaos. Memories of Dad flooded back, teaching me to fish at the nearby lake, laughing loudly when I caught my first fish. "Son, life is like a river. You have to be patient." That's what he used to say. Now what? He pushed Mom off a cliff for money? I shook my head, trying to push it away, but suspicion grew like weeds, uncontrollable. And Chris? My lively little brother, always smiling but weak, easily swayed by Dad. He once called me crying in the middle of the night when Dad yelled at him. Now, was he complicit? I lay awake many nights on the hospital sofa planning. Check insurance records, trace Dad's calls. One morning, as sunlight peeked through the window, a knock sounded. I opened my eyes to see Dad and Chris at the door. He wore a crisp suit like he was heading to a meeting, face rigid. Chris followed in a car sales polo, smile forced. "Son, I heard about the accident. Came to see your mom," Dad said, voice flat. I stood, heart racing. This was their first visit since Mom remembered. Mom lay on the bed, eyes half open but pretending to sleep as we'd agreed. Dad stepped in, staring at her long, his gaze cold and complex, not a trace of joy. Not the look of a husband seeing his wife alive, but a predator sizing up prey. I noticed Dad controlling every gesture, standing straight, hands in pockets, asking bland questions. "How was the accident? Car badly damaged? What did the doctor say?" I answered curtly. "Brakes failed. Mom has a concussion, but she's stable." Dad nodded. "Yeah, lucky. I'll handle the car repair." But his voice was ice cold, emotionless. Mom lay still, but I saw her shoulders tremble slightly. She was listening and afraid. They didn't stay long. Then Dad said, "I'll step out for a smoke." But I knew he didn't smoke. I slipped out after him, pretending to get water. From the hallway corner, I overheard him and Chris talking to the doctor at the nurse's station. "Doctor, we're family of patient Maggie Denton. We want details on her memory recovery." Dad's voice was calm but urgent. The doctor replied, Mr. Denton, she's stable, but memory may return gradually. We're monitoring." Dad pressed, "Any psychological risk if the patient remembers suddenly, like shock or something?" Chris added, "Yes, we're worried it might affect her." The doctor explained something about brain trauma, but my blood boiled. They were probing, afraid Mom would remember. Rage flared inside me like wildfire. My fists clenched, blood rushing to my head. I nearly charged out to confront them. to scream in Dad's face that he pushed Mom off the cliff for insurance money. But I stopped, pressing against the wall, breathing hard. I knew if I spoke now, they'd deny everything. Dad would smirk. "You're crazy, son. Your mom slipped." Chris would nod, eyes averted. And I had no evidence, just Mom's word, hazy memories. I needed solid proof. Insurance files, witnesses, something undeniable. I returned to the room, face flushed, forcing calm. When they left, Dad patting my shoulder falsely. "Take care, son. I'll call." Chris mumbling goodbye. Mom silently turned to the wall, tears falling without sound. She didn't look at them, just lay still, shoulders shaking. "Mom, I don't want to see them again," she whispered, voice breaking. I sat beside her, holding her hand, speechless. Her words cut like a knife. She once loved Dad deeply, cherished Chris like treasure. Now she feared them this much. I understood. They wouldn't stop until the truth was buried forever. They cut the brakes, stalked the house, made threatening calls. What next? I squeezed her hand. "I'll protect you, Mom. We'll win." Those words echoed in my head the entire drive home after Mom was discharged. The doctor finally allowed her to leave, with strict instructions for absolute rest and a follow-up in a week. My wife drove, while I sat in the back with Mom, her hand ice cold in mine. She leaned her head on my shoulder, eyes closed, but I knew she wasn't sleeping. She was thinking, wrestling with the shattered fragments of memory. Our small house in Delaware appeared under the autumn afternoon sun, the white fence and little garden now like a fragile fortress. Amber opened the door, helped Mom into the living room, brewed hot tea and wrapped a thin blanket around her. "Rest, Mom. I'll take care of everything," she said gently. Mom nodded, but her eyes met mine, full of determination and worry. "Son, we have to act," she whispered when Amber went to the kitchen. I nodded, heart heavy. The hospital days had given me time to think and plan. I couldn't sit idle waiting for another attack. After Mom dozed off, I went to the garage and called an old friend. He'd once mentioned a reliable private detective who specialized in divorce and fraud cases, Mike Harlan, he said. "He's tight-lipped, works clean." I called Mike right away, voice low. "I need 2 people tailed, my father and brother. They may be tied to an attempted murder for insurance scam." Mike listened, asked no questions. "Send photos and addresses. Half the fee up front, weekly reports." I transferred the money via app. Sent old album photos of Dad and Chris. My heart raced. This was the first step, but it felt like descending deeper into darkness. A few days later, Mike sent the first report via encrypted email. I opened it in the garage, away from Mom and Amber. It was brief but exploded in my mind like a bomb. 10 years ago, right when Mom's accident happened, Dad's construction company was on the brink of bankruptcy. Bank debts piled up, contractors demanding payment. Even rumors he was about to sell the house. Then just weeks after receiving Mom's massive life insurance payout, the money Dad called a miracle from heaven. He used it to pay debts, hire more workers, and revive the entire business. Now the company was stable with big contracts in Buffalo. I read with trembling hands. Coincidence? No, this was motive. Dad needed money, and Mom. Mom was the key. I printed the report and took it to Mom's room while Amber was at work. She sat up, eyes wide as she read. "Mom, Dad once said he wanted to plan ahead for the family and had you sign the life insurance policy. You signed without suspicion, thinking it was out of care," she whispered, tears rolling down. I hugged her. "Mom, I get it now. Dad planned it all, bought the insurance, staged the accident, then seized the money." Saying it aloud made my heart ache. My father, the man I once admired, now a schemer. She nodded. I didn't want to believe it, but yes, he changed because of the debts. I sat silent, memories flooding back. Dad teaching me responsibility, but now he'd betrayed everything. Meanwhile, police sent the forensics report on the recent car crash. I got an email from the investigating officer, the one who took statements at the hospital. Brake system failed due to mechanical tampering, external interference evident, not natural technical failure. It hit like lightning. Someone cut the brakes, deliberately trying to kill us. Heart pounding, I called Mike. Check hospital parking lot cameras from the day of the accident. Look for anyone suspicious. Mike agreed. Will take a few days, but I have a contact in hospital security. I waited in suspense. Those days felt endless. Mom and I talked more. She shared more memories. Your father argued about money, said we have to sacrifice to save the family. She cried. I comforted her. Mom, I'll prove it. Amber worried. Riley, don't be reckless. They're dangerous. But I didn't stop. I searched old files at home, hunted for insurance papers. Dad kept copies, but now I dug through old emails for clues. Mike's results came after 3 days. A video file attached. I watched in the garage, heart thumping. Hospital security footage showed a man near my car while we were inside for the checkup. Gray jacket, baseball cap hiding his face, crouching under the chassis for minutes before vanishing. Tall, thin build, slight limp, matched Chris exactly. I zoomed in, compared to brother's photos, identical. My hands shook. Chris, you did this? Rage and pain surged. My little brother, whom I'd protected, now the saboteur. The detective kept digging. He tailed Dad and Chris to a cafe in Buffalo, their usual spot. He secretly recorded their conversation and sent me the audio file. I listened alone in the car, parked far from home. Dad's voice low and grim. If she remembers, we lose everything. The insurance money, the company, police will dig. Chris, voice shaking. Dad, I'm scared. The car crash failed. What now? Dad growled. No turning back. We finish it. The recording ended, but those words stabbed like knives. I listened with trembling hands, cold sweat breaking out. They weren't just afraid of the truth. They were ready to do anything to bury it, even kill me to erase all traces. By the time we got home, it was pitch dark. The yellow light from the living room spilled out where Amber waited with a cold dinner on the table. She rushed to the garage when she heard the car, hugging me tightly. Riley, you're back. I was so worried. I kissed her forehead, forcing a smile. I'm okay, but there's a lot to talk about. Mom was sitting on the sofa, wrapped in a thin blanket, her eyes fixed on me with worry. She had heard a brief summary of Mike's report on the drive home, but now it was time to face it all. We gathered around the kitchen table under dim light, and I laid everything out. The bankruptcy report, the insurance money, the video of Chris tampering with the brakes, the recorded conversation between father and son. Mom listened, her hands clutching the teacup until her knuckles turned white. Riley, are you sure? She whispered, voice trembling. I nodded. I'm sure, Mom. Mike is reliable. The next morning, I sprang into action. I compiled all the evidence from the detective, printed reports, copied the video and audio onto a USB. My hands shook as I organized, each page like a knife to the heart. I called a lawyer Mike had recommended, James Harlan, Mike's cousin, specializing in fraud and criminal cases. I need you to build a case and submit all documents to the police, I said over the phone, voice low. He agreed to meet that afternoon at his office, a 2-hour drive from Delaware. I drove alone to meet Mr. Harlan, heart pounding. His office was in an old building smelling of paper and stale coffee. He was a middle-aged man with thick glasses and a warm, deep voice. Mr. Denton, tell me everything. I recounted it all. Mom's accident, the insurance payout, the brake tampering, the recording. He listened, took notes, then reviewed the evidence. This is big, Riley. Insurance fraud, attempted murder. Could mean life in prison. My heart clenched. Can you do it? He nodded. I'll prepare the file and submit to Buffalo PD. Where it happened, I'll try to complete the paperwork in 2 days. Back home, I told Mom and Amber. Mom was silent for a long time, then said, Son, we have to confront them. I want to go too. It's time they heard the truth from my own mouth. She looked at me, eyes resolute despite her frailty. I shook my head. Mom, it's too dangerous. But she gripped my hand. I have to go, son. Amber worried. Riley, should we call the police to come with us? I thought of Harlan's words, then nodded. Yes, but we go first. To catch them off guard. 2 days later, Harlan called. Files done. Submitted to the police. They'll be monitoring. Be careful. I thanked him, heart racing. That afternoon, I drove Mom to the old house, the place I grew up once our family's warm home. The familiar highway now felt like a road to hell. Mom sat beside me, hands clutching her skirt. The house where I was born and raised appeared in the fading dusk, a 2-story wooden home, front yard with the apple tree Dad planted. My heart tightened. Childhood memories flooded back. Chasing Chris, Mom calling us for dinner. Now it was all shattered. I parked, helped Mom out, her hand ice cold. We knocked, hearts pounding. When the door opened, Louis and Chris looked up from the living room. They were drinking coffee like any ordinary afternoon. Chris jumped to his feet, face drained of color. Bro, Mom, what are you doing here? His voice shook. Dad stood frozen, eyes wide, face ashen. I said nothing, just guided Mom to a chair. She sat, gaze calm but heavy, carrying the weight of 10 years. I placed the file folder on the table, my hand trembling slightly but my eyes resolute. Dad, Chris, sit. We need to talk. They sat. Dad tried to regain composure, but his hands shook as he picked up the papers, bankruptcy reports, insurance documents, photos of Chris under the car. He threw them down, voice hoarse with rage. What the hell is this? Fabrications. Someone put you up to this, Riley. Who hired you? Chris yelled, voice shrill. Bro, you're destroying the family. Trying to take Dad's assets. Mom, you've been tricked. He looked at Mom, eyes panicked. But she didn't meet his gaze, just bowed her head. I stayed silent, hands shaking as I played the recording on my phone. Dad's voice filled the quiet room. If she remembers, we lose everything. No turning back. The room fell into deathly silence. Only the recording repeating their words. Dad went pale, mouth agape, speechless. Chris slumped in his chair, sweating profusely. Then Mom looked up, voice trembling but firm. Louis, Chris, I remember everything. She stared at them, eyes full of pain and anger. That picnic, you pushed me off the cliff, Louis. For the insurance money. I survived, wandered for 10 years while you lived comfortably on my blood. Her words froze the two men. Louis's face turned paper white, eyes wide in horror. Chris trembled, cold sweat pouring. Mom, no! It wasn't like that. Both panicked, suddenly changing tack. Dad dropped to his knees, pleading, Maggie, please. I didn't want to. The debts forced me. I just wanted to save the family. Chris sobbed. Mom, I didn't know. Dad said it was an accident. I was just helping. Forgive us, we're family. Dad mumbled along, tears falling. I looked at them, eyes cold. Forgive? You pushed Mom off a cliff, cut my brakes, stalked our house, made threats. All evidence is with the police. Now we wait for justice. At that, Louis roared like a beast. You betrayed me. He lunged, hands choking my throat. His grip was strong despite his age, fingers tight, eyes bloodshot. I didn't want to kill her. Circumstances forced me. Debts, bankruptcy. I had to save the company. Don't you understand? I fought back, prying at his hands, throat constricted, gasping. Mom screamed, Louis, stop! But he didn't listen, growling like a madman. Chris stood frozen, eyes panicked, not daring to intervene. Just muttering, Dad, stop. Suddenly the door burst open. 4 armed officers stormed in, tipped off by lawyer Harlan for safety. They tackled Dad. Louis Denton, you're under arrest. He thrashed, shouting, but they cuffed him. Chris collapsed to the floor, sobbing, I didn't mean to. Police led them away, handcuffs clinking. I stood still watching my brother and the father I once respected being hauled off in cuffs, his face twisted in rage and despair. Chris looked at me one last time, eyes full of regret. "Bro, forgive me." But I didn't answer, just turned away. Mom sat quietly in the chair, tears streaming. She watched them disappear through the door, shoulders shaking. I knelt beside her, hugging tightly. "Mom, it's over," she cried. "Son, our family, it's truly broken." We sat there in the old house, now filled with darkness, police voices echoing outside. Harlan called, "You okay? Police will handle it." I nodded, voice hoarse. "Thank you." But my heart was empty, relieved for justice but aching for the loss. Dad and Chris, my blood, now prisoners. The hours that followed passed like a dream. Police questioning, taking notes, photographing the scene. I helped Mom to the car. She leaned on me, her steps heavy as if carrying the weight of a lifetime. On the drive back to Delaware, the sky was pitch black, rain pattering on the windshield. Mom was silent, only occasionally wiping tears with her sleeve. I drove slowly, mind reeling with images of Dad in handcuffs, his face twisted in rage and despair. He had been the pillar, the strong man who taught me to get up after every fall. Now he was a criminal, and Chris, my smiling little brother, now collapsed in sobs. I remembered him chasing me for candy. Now he was an accomplice. My heart tore like it was being ripped apart. Tears fell, but I wiped them quickly, not wanting Mom to see. "Mom, let's go home," I whispered. She nodded. "Yes, son. Home to Amber." Back at the house, Amber waited at the door, eyes red from worry. She ran out to hug Mom. "Mom, oh God, are you okay?" Mom smiled faintly. "I'm fine, daughter-in-law." We told her everything, the confrontation, the recording, the police raid. Amber cried. "Riley, you took too big a risk." I was terrified. I hugged her. "I'm here. It's over." But really, it was just beginning, the start of justice, of healing. That night, we sat around the dinner table, but no one could eat. Mom went to bed early, whispering before sleep, "Riley, thank you." I sat by her bedside until late, listening to her steady breathing, thinking of the years she wandered alone. She survived to see this day, justice, but at a steep price. After the incident, police immediately charged Louis and Chris Denton with insurance fraud, attempted murder, and intentional injury. I got a call from the investigating officer the next morning. "Mr. Denton, they're in custody. Evidence is solid. Your mother's statement, video, audio. They won't get away." My heart lightened somewhat, but the pain remained. In the initial interrogations, they were silent as stone. Dad sat straight, eyes cold, denying everything. Chris hung his head, mute. I imagined it from Harlan's updates. They're stubborn, but the police are skilled. After hours, likely long nights of questioning, facing evidence, both finally broke. Chris confessed first, sobbing, "I just followed Dad. I was afraid of losing everything." Dad signed his statement later, voice weary. "I did it for the family." Those confessions cut like knives. He admitted pushing Mom for the debts, using the insurance to save the company, and ordering Chris to cut the brakes to silence her. The case file was completed quickly, in just weeks, with overwhelming evidence. Insurance papers, company financials, Chris's video, cafe audio. Nothing left to deny. Every crime exposed to the public. Local media covered it sensationally. Construction boss attempts wife's murder for insurance. Son exposes. I read with a heavy heart. Family name tarnished, but truth demanded it. Old friends called, neighbors whispered, but I didn't care. Amber comforted. "Riley, you did right. Justice had to be." Mom spoke less, often sitting alone with old photos. "I never thought Louis changed so much." She cried. I hugged her. "Mom, let it go. We have each other." The trial took place in a packed courtroom. Reporters, Dad's friends, even old contractors watching. Mom and I sat in the front row, silently watching the two men enter in handcuffs. Dad walked straight but avoided our eyes. Chris hung his head, gaunt, eyes red. I felt no anger left. It had burned out in the confrontation. Only emptiness and regret for a lost family. Mom gripped my hand. "Riley, it hurts so much," she whispered. I squeezed back. "I know, Mom." The prosecutor presented evidence. Mom's testimony, video, audio. The room fell silent, hearing Dad's voice. No turning back. Defense tried. Circumstances forced it, no intent to kill. But the judge shook his head. After 3 days, the judge sentenced Louis Denton, 28 years for attempted murder, insurance fraud, and obstruction of justice. "You betrayed family and society," the judge said sternly. Dad sat still, eyes on the floor, no longer strong, just a weary old man. Chris Denton, 12 years for complicity and evidence tampering. "You're young but must answer," the judge said. Chris sobbed, looking at me pleading. "Bro, I'm sorry." But I didn't respond, just turned away. The courtroom applauded. Justice, but for me, pain. Leaving the courtroom, I didn't look back. It felt like ending a decade-long dark chapter. Mom silently held her son's hand, eyes wet but peaceful. The first time I saw her like that, burden lifted. Reporters swarmed. "Mr. Denton, how do you feel?" I pushed through. "Please leave us alone." At home, we sat quietly, no celebration, just exhaustion. Amber hugged me. You did it." I nodded. "But lost everything." In the time after, we sold the old house, the Buffalo home full of memories where Dad built, Mom nurtured. I hired someone to sell. I didn't want to return. Proceeds went to Mom, the rest to charity. No touching Dad's money. We moved to a suburb, a small house, big garden, not far from Delaware. Mornings, I worked at the factory. Security shifts lighter now. Amber handled the nearby hospital, often home early to cook. Mom tended the backyard garden, planting golden chrysanthemums like the old ones. She knelt in the soil, stroking leaves, whispering, "Golden flowers, like before." I watched from the window, heart warm. She was healing. Life stabilized like a calm river after a storm. Mom was well cared for. Amber checked weekly. I bought vitamins. She gained weight, skin glowing. Sometimes she still startled at night, calling, "Riley, Chris." Voice trembling, I rushed in. "I'm here, Mom. Safe." She smiled faintly, hugging me. "Just a dream." Nightmares faded, replaced by deep sleep. She shared happy stories. "Remember when Chris fell from the tree?" We laughed but never mentioned Dad, silent agreement. I never brought up the past with her. Some wounds don't need reopening, they heal with time and love. I avoided media, Dad's name, focused on now, helping Mom garden, walking with Amber. She got pregnant 3 months later. Joy made Mom beam. "Grandchild, I've waited so long." We fixed the nursery, painted soft green. New life, no shadows. Weekends, family dinners under warm yellow light. We ate Mom's chicken soup, shared work stories, laughed. Old scars remained. I woke remembering Dad, Mom, sometimes sad. But the house was truly peaceful. No darkness, only faith and serenity after years of loss. Mom often said, "Riley, life is strange. Lose, then find." I nodded. "Yes, Mom." For me, justice was served, but greater was reclaiming the mother I thought lost forever, and starting a new chapter with her, light, peaceful, full of hope. I watched Mom smile with Amber. Thought of the coming child, new hope. Life went on, scars faded. Dad wrote from prison, "Son, forgive me." I didn't reply but felt lighter. Mom read it, cried, "He regrets." We didn't visit but forgave from afar. Chrysanthemums bloomed gold, autumn breeze gentle, peace. Months later, Mom was fully well. Morning walks, hearty cooking. I got promoted at the factory, Amber on maternity leave. The baby arrived, a girl named Little Maggie. Mom held her. Like me back then, we laughed, pain forgotten. Weekend picnics, no cliffs, just peaceful parks. Mom told old stories happily. I thought, justice came late, but it came, and we lived on. stronger. Amber and I strolled the garden. "Riley, are you happy?" I hugged her. "With you, Mom, the baby, yes." Mom called, "Dinner!" We went inside, warm light glowing. New life, no darkness. The months following the trial flowed like a gentle river, gradually washing away the remaining fragments of pain. I often sat alone on the back porch, gazing at the small garden Mom tended, reflecting on everything. After all that had happened, from that midnight call to sleepless nights of suspicion, the tense gathering of clues and the dramatic confrontation, I realized that justice doesn't come solely from the courtroom or the judge's cold verdict. No, it begins the moment I dared to face the truth, no matter how agonizing. I remember the hospital night when Mom whispered about Dad's push. My heart felt crushed, but I chose to listen, to believe her instead of turning away and fleeing like Dad and Chris had. That was when true justice started, not in the crowded courtroom but in my own heart, when I decided not to let lies obscure it anymore. It was like a small flame burning steadily, illuminating the dark path and ultimately consuming the shadows that had enveloped our family for 10 years. My mother, after enduring a long life of suffering and wandering, gradually regained her faith in living. She had once been a gaunt woman with cloudy eyes, homeless, scavenging to survive. Now she was like a golden chrysanthemum in the garden, blooming after the storm. She no longer mentioned Louis. That name was like a ghost banished from her mind. Every morning she rose early, sitting by the window in quiet prayer, her words soft like whispers to herself. "I pray for peace," she told me once when I asked. She didn't pray for Dad or Chris. No hatred, no resentment, just for herself and us. Then she went to the garden, watering can in hand, tending the vibrant golden chrysanthemums just like the old garden in Buffalo. It was her way of forgiving herself, forgiving for trusting wrongly, for enduring so long unknowingly. I often watched from afar, seeing her smile as the flowers bloomed, and my heart warmed. She once said, "Riley, this garden is Mom's new life. No more cliffs, just soil and sunshine." In those moments, I saw her truly alive, not just existing. I know that in every family, trust can be the most precious gift, but also the sharpest weapon when betrayed. I once trusted Dad blindly. He was the pillar, teaching me responsibility and morals. "Son, a man must protect his family," he'd say, patting my shoulder when I was young. Now those words tasted bitter. He protected the company by sacrificing Mom. That trust betrayed left a deep tear in my heart, making me doubt everything. But the truth mended those tears. Painful, but like glue, it bound the broken pieces. Without facing it, we'd forever live in lies. Mom wandering, me tormented by dreams, Amber anxious beside me. Now seeing Mom smile, I understood. Trust can be destroyed, but truth rebuilds it stronger. I often told Amber late at night, "Honey, trust is like a thread, beautiful but fragile. But truth is the compass guiding us through darkness." She nodded, hugging me. "You did it, Riley." I told Amber that people can't choose their beginnings, but they can choose how a story ends, with lies or courage. I was born into that family. Ambitious Dad, gentle Mom, weak Chris. Circumstances drove Dad into debt, us into tragedy. But I chose courage, to dig for truth even if it meant facing blood relatives. That choice saved us. Saved Mom from memory's darkness, me from doubt, Amber from fear. Life is like a book. Circumstances write the opening, but we decide the ending. For me, past pain became a lesson. Money and fame can blind people, but family and truth can never be buried forever. Dad was blinded by money. Debts turned him into a schemer, willing to sacrifice his wife for the company. Money saved the family, he justified in his confession, but that money only saved the shell, saved the company, the reputation, but destroyed the bonds. I saw clearly through this journey. Money comes and goes, fame is like sea foam, but family, like Mom returning after 10 years, is eternal. Truth too. It was buried in the ravine under lies, but ultimately surfaced, shining. That lesson etched deep in me, making me live differently. avoiding blind ambition, cherishing the simple. Riley, don't be like your father, Mom said once in the garden. I nodded. I promise, Mom. Family is everything. I spent more time with Mom and family, living simply, far from the ambitions that tore us apart. Before I slaved at the factory, dreaming of promotion. Now I chose lighter shifts, home early for dinner with Mom and Amber. We walked in the park. Mom shared childhood stories. No pain, just joy. You were naughty, Riley. Always worried me. I laughed. I'm grown now, Mom. Amber pregnant, we fixed the nursery. Soft green walls, simple wooden crib. No luxury, just warmth. Mom sewed tiny blankets for the grandbaby. She smiled, eyes bright. I avoided high-pressure work, ambitious friends. Dad's lesson too clear. Ambition blinds, leads to betrayal. Now I lived for the present, watering the garden with Mom, hugging Amber nightly, thinking of the coming child. In quiet sunsets, I often thought that forgiveness isn't forgetting, but accepting the past is over and one can still move forward. I sat on the porch watching the sunset, orange dyeing the garden red. Mom beside me. We were silent. No words needed. I thought of Dad in prison. He wrote apologies, regrets. I didn't reply, but anger lessened. Forgiveness wasn't forgetting the push, the brake cutting, but accepting it was past, and I moved on. Same for Chris, the mistaken brother dragged along. I visited once through glass. Chris, live well. He cried, Bro, I will. Forgiveness lightened me, not for them, but for myself. Mom often said, Riley, forgiveness is letting go. She led by example. No hatred for Louie, just prayers, forgiving her lost years. My story ends not with hatred, but a message. Justice may come late, but it always finds its way. As long as we keep believing in truth and human kindness, I think of the journey. From midnight dreams to this golden chrysanthemum garden. Justice came after 10 years, but it came because I believed Mom, believed truth, kindness. Like Amber beside me, Mom surviving it, is strength. To anyone hurting, don't give up, believe. Justice will return. My life proves it.